In the summer of 1942, the Germans continued to gain ground in Russia. In North Africa, the British Eighth Army had been beaten back into Egypt and stood at bay in front of Alexandria. Not until October had it recovered sufficiently to spring on Rommel at El Alamein. In Western Europe, powerful German and Allied forces faced each other across the Channel, but the time had not yet arrived for them to come to grips. In the meantime, the British and Americans decided to strike through French North Africa at the enemy in the Mediterranean. This made it desirable to foster German fears of a descent in the West. It was also important to gain experience to assist in planning the great amphibious assault on Western Europe that would come when the time was ripe. Such was the origin of the raid on Dieppe. The venture was a risky one, which could be entrusted only to troops of high quality. Fully realizing its importance, General MacNaughton accepted the task, and there is little doubt that his men in Britain, who had waited so long for action, would have violently resented any other decision. The main body of troops taking part, 2 brigades, came from the 2nd Canadian Division. The 1st Army Tank Brigade provided a tank regiment equipped with Churchill tanks. When General Montgomery offered the operation to General MacNaughton on 30 April 1942, planning for it was already far advanced. 5 days earlier, a meeting at the headquarters of the British Chief of Combined Operations, Vice Admiral Lord Louis Mountbatten, had accepted a basic plan which was essentially that finally carried out. Canadian staff officers agreed that this plan offered a good chance of success. A detailed model of the area to be attacked was constructed and kept up to date by air reconnaissance, and the troops rehearsed the raid on beaches in the Island of Wight and at Bridport. Major General J. H. Roberts, the general officer commanding 2nd Canadian Division, was appointed military force commander, with Captain J. Hughes Hallett, Royal Navy, as the Naval Force Commander, and Air Vice Marshal T. L. Lee Mallory as Air Force Commander. The port of Dieppe lies on low ground between high cliffs. The plan of attack called for 4 preliminary flank landings at dawn, to be followed by a frontal assault on the town itself half an hour later. British commandos were entrusted with the outer flank attacks on the coastal batteries on the cliffs at either side of the town. Between the Eastern Commando landing in Dieppe, the Royal Regiment of Canada would land at Puy and clear a dominant headland overlooking the Dieppe beaches. To the west, the South Saskatchewan Regiment would land at Pourville to clear an even higher headland and would be followed by the Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders of Canada, whose objective was an aerodrome farther inland. The main attack on the port itself would be made across the Dieppe beaches by 2 battalions, the Essex Scottish Regiment and the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, assisted by the 14th Canadian Army Tank Regiment, the Calgary Regiment. The tanks would push through the town to operate with the Camerons against the aerodrome. General Roberts had as a floating reserve les Fusiliers Mont-Royal and the Royal Marine A Commando. Les Fusiliers Mont-Royal were to act as a rear guard to cover the final withdrawal, and the Marines were to remove or destroy the barges in Dieppe harbor. At dusk on 18 August, the raiders' ships crept out into the channel and for most of the night nosed peacefully toward the distant coast. But about an hour before daybreak, the landing craft on the extreme eastern fringe of the flotilla encountered an enemy convoy of 5 small vessels with a naval escort. Gunfire flashed out and there was a sharp little fight. The craft carrying the left commando were scattered and only 7 of the 23 craft landed their troops. Furthermore, the noise of the sea fight caused the German coastal defenses nearby to be manned within 10 minutes of the fight's beginning. From that moment, there was little chance of success. One little party of commando men managed to get within 200 yards of the guns. They could not take them, but accurate sniping neutralized the battery, and for 2.5 vital hours its guns fired no shot against our ships. Nevertheless, chances in this sector had been seriously impaired, and most of the commando had become casualties. The Royal Regiment of Canada at Pays shared in this ill fortune. Owing to various mischances, the naval craft arrived late, and when the Royals leapt ashore they met violent machine gun fire in the growing light. Few men crossed the heavily wired seawall at the head of the narrow beach, and of those who did, only 1 came back. The rest remained pinned on the beach by mortar and machine gun fire until the remnant finally surrendered. The Royals had 209 fatal casualties, the heaviest toll suffered by a Canadian battalion in a single day throughout the entire war. Failure here left the eastern headland in the Germans' hands. From it they were able to enfilade the beaches in front of the town and nullify the main 2-battalion frontal attack.